which relationship really should be a priority in the family, the one with your partner or the one with your kids. Hi, I've got the lovely Laura Press with us today. So Laura is a marriage and relationship counsellor. She's over in Australia in the Sunshine Coast, isn't it, Laura? Yes. And she has worked with hundreds of couples to create more loving, trusting, passionate relationships. So we're so thrilled to have you here, Laura, to talk to us about this topic of really who should come first, our kids or our partners. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Laura. Like what got you into this line of work?
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me, Caitlin. It's lovely to be here talking with you today. What got me into this line of work? Well, I guess like everything's a bit of a journey. So I had, I guess, my own relationship struggles, all of that type of thing. So I guess where I've come from is very much, I've got a lot of personal experiences. Now I'm married with 3 beautiful children, but it wasn't always that way. And so I guess a lot of my work has come from that and just really wanting to keep families together. I've seen, if that's the right thing, of course, the safety and love and all of that. But I've seen a lot of families, not working as they should be, not working as a team, and having a massive flow-on effect to their children as well. So nothing lights me up more than, a couple staying together and having that beautiful flow-on effect to their family as well. So I've done all the degrees and all the courses. I've got 3 degrees. And after my master's, I really just decided, no, like this is where I want to be and this is what I wanted to do. And, it's been an amazing, I guess, journey helping different clients move through, whether it's trust issues or sometimes even, big things like infidelity or, all of the different things that life throws at us. So it's been, a wonderful journey to do that.
Wow, amazing. I imagine it's so fulfilling to see those couples that can work through and come out the other side, especially when there's kids in the mix.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think, Laura? Now, I listened to one of your podcasts and you threw out something which some might consider a bit of an unpopular opinion about which relationship really should be a priority in the family, the one with your partner or the one with your kids?
Yes. So I see a lot of couples, when they come to me, the kids are number one in the relationship. And what I mean, or in the family unit, kids come first. And now, don't get me wrong, obviously we have babies and they have a lot of needs, or we have different seasons or different times where a child needs 100%, of the time and attention. However, I believe that your family unit and your relationship is the strongest when it is number one. So I think your relationship should always be number one and your kids number 2. Now, I know a lot of people are squirming in their seats sometimes when I say that, but it's for really good reason. Like, I mean, when I say that you should be number one, what I mean is you have to water and nurture that relationship. You have to, like, the leadership team we were talking about before, as a whole, you need to be there for your kids. And the best way to possibly do that is to have that mindset of my relationship comes first. If you spend that time, everything else flows. If you don't spend that time, if you are not, communicating well with your partner, your kids see that. If you're not spending that time together, then you're just not connecting. It's more disjointed. There's more stress. There's more arguments and fighting in general. And so that's why I firmly believe and suggest that your relationship should always come first. And to be honest, there's proof to that in that you will see couples that put their relationship first will have a more, in general, peaceful, harmonious, loving, connected relationship. Now, of course, they still have their fights. So we're not talking about unicorns here, but everyone's still real, you will see that. Whereas you will see the couples that are really struggling, they do not put their relationship first.
Yes. So it actually has to be something you consciously do. It's not just going to happen.
No.
You actually have to make an effort to make
it doesn't magically occur by osmosis. No, it's not that sort of situation. You definitely have to put the time, energy, and effort into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what do you think gets in the way of that, Laura? Like, why do people find it so hard to actually make that time to prioritize the relationship with their partner?
I think one of the big ones is overscheduling. I
Mm,
think
mm,
the calendar is so full, there is no white space. There
mm,
is like you're just running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. There's no downtime. And when you do get to downtime, you are both so stuffed that there is
mm,
literally no chance for connection, decent
mm.
communication, or any of those things. And so I think the next one is really not knowing how to communicate what you think and feel openly and on
Mm.
an ongoing basis with your partner, and not knowing how to understand what your partner's saying. Because I always say, we all have the same English dictionary, but we definitely do not all believe the same definition for each word.
So true. Yes.
Yeah. And so all the misunderstandings often come from that place. I'll say one thing, and my partner might hear it and they go, "What did you mean that?" And I'll be like, "No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no." And that happens all of the time, but we don't take the time to actually see what our partner's true intent was or our partner's true meaning was.
Right. Well, so we just end up reacting based on our assumptions of what we
Yes.
think they're saying.
Yeah. So communication skills, so not having the overscheduling and having the communication skills really does help eliminate a lot of problems.
Absolutely. So what are a couple of tips you could give people? I know this, it's probably not a quick fix, but
Yeah.
maybe just a couple of things they could do to kind of overcome those barriers of the overscheduling and the communication.
Yeah. I would say firstly, sit down with your partner and get out a calendar. A lot of couples don't have a joint calendar. I really recommend a joint calendar with
Mm,
alerts. Now, I know it's not sexy. It's not like the most exciting thing. But grab your drink of choice, sit down, and just once you do it, it kind of sets you free in a way, because you're both like, oh, like that's what happens in our week, and you're really accounting for that time, and you're really like looking at the calendar and you're like, oh, like there's no time for us in there, or there's no
yeah.
time, or even independent time. Like independent time fosters your relationship. I mean,
Yes.
people overlook that, because
Yes.
when I look at a couple, they come to me, I'll go, okay, so we've got two people here. Is each person fostering their emotional, mental, physical health, and their well-being in general? Because
Mm,
that needs to be the first place. Because
mm,
if you come together as two people who are stressed and burnt out and upset and emotionally, I guess, dysregulated,
mm,
nothing amazing is going to come from that. So it's checking in. Okay, do we have that time on the calendar for yourselves individually, and then collectively, do we have that time to discuss life? And I mean, there's a lot of well-known counsels and research on the topic that you actually need to spend time each day or throughout the week talking about logistics in your life, talking about your relationship, talking about your kids, talking about how things are going, what's working, what's not working, as a bare minimum for connection. So that's not even talking about thriving. That's just talking about a
mm,
bare minimum for connection. Really make sure those, the individual health is prioritized, the couple's time is prioritized, and even downtime. Like these things are not things we schedule, but they should be, because if you don't put that in, everything else will fill up anyway.
mm,
So they need to be your major things first before anything else. And also, something I often recommend to clients is that weekly debrief, is that
mm.
time to sit down. So people call this all different things. There's great names for it. There's a love bubble, a CEO chat. Like I've heard it named
Nice.
everything. I say rename it to suit you, because some of them are
Yes.
corny, some of them are not, and just go with
Yes.
what works well for you. But you should be checking in. Sometimes there's unfinished conversations that you've had throughout the week that are not resolved.
Yep.
And we forget and we leave them. And then one person doesn't always forget. And then the resentment builds,
Yep.
or the tension or the stress. And we're like, what's going on? I cannot, like, everything's been good, hasn't it? And
Mm.
it's like, no, there's like a whole bunch of loose ends that hasn't been tied up, a whole bunch of resolutions, or just being heard by one another has not
Yeah.
occurred that week.
Yeah.
So when you sit down, going through those things and going, okay, like, is there another way I can support you next week? Like, what do you need? Like, and having that conversation, so you're leaning on each other as well, and creating that team mentality, which is essentially putting your relationship first.
Absolutely, yes. And if you've got that foundation, your kids are going to feel it. So, it might mean, from what you say, this is going to take a bit of effort and a bit of time. So it might potentially mean looking at your schedule and looking at how much is devoted to the kids' sort of activities.
Sure.
Is there something here we're prioritizing above our relationship? And, is that really what we want for our family?
Yes. And I think that is kind of a little bit of what I see today is just the kids are doing 25 different things. And don't get me wrong, like, I mean, it's beautiful. I know you want the best for your children, everyone does. But is it at the detriment to your marriage and your relationship, which ultimately will affect your kids way more than weekend sport or the, 10 dance classes or whatever, obviously I'm being slightly dramatic, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you want to look at the whole picture, not
For
just,
sure.
the individual people in it. Yeah, absolutely. So what about the communication thing, Laura? Like people that really struggle to express really what they're actually feeling with their partners in a way that is not critical or
Yes.
judging.
So something that I recommend, and it's really simple, but it's simple because it works. Sometimes the more complexity means we just don't execute. So that's why it's simple. So it's literally a way of stating I feel X. So the reason we use I language is because it takes out any blame, judgment, criticism of the other person. So just to give you an example, you didn't take out the rubbish. Why didn't you do that? Yep. As opposed to I feel not as supported right now because now I have to take out the rubbish and I've got to do the other things as well. Yep. It's different. They're more open. They'll be more open and they'll be more receptive. You're saying the same thing in a different way.
Yes.
But even down to the simplest things of you get home from work, you've had a terrible day. Maybe you have a headache. Maybe, it's just as simple as, after the hellos, of course, but it's as simple as I am feeling X, Y, Z. Is it possible, for me to go have a 10-minute lay down before dinner or whatever? Like, that really clear communication of how you're feeling and what's going on for you, as opposed to the guessing games. Because I'll get a lot of couples come to me and they'll go, well, I just don't know how you're feeling. I didn't know that was going on for you. I didn't know that you were thinking that way. If you just clearly state it, it takes away all guessing games, which I do not recommend. It takes away all of the, well, what's actually happening here? What, like, did I do something wrong? And that's the kind of game you can get into if you're not clearly stating what you're thinking or feeling in that moment using I.
Yes, that is so, like, it sounds so basic, but it could be a struggle, I imagine, for a lot of people that, and perhaps I wonder if history comes into this, like how things have been modeled to them, of how couples work and how we communicate in relationships.
Well, I mean, it's two parts too. Like, it is communicating what you are feeling, but it's also communicating a need usually after that, if applicable at the time, So it's and then the other person gets that opportunity to say, well, like, oh, thanks for sharing. I'm feeling this and needing this, and so it gives you that opportunity to dance together and work as a team. Beautiful. As opposed to two people feeling stressed, two people like trying to get all the kids ready, but everything's hectic. Like, sometimes that 10 minutes out per person can be a game changer for the rest of the evening.
Absolutely.
Plus, just like you said, it's very much what's been modeled. Like, it's felt like it's not okay to express a need, or it's not okay to express how you're feeling. And sometimes it's not even that you need time out. Sometimes it's that you just need some empathy from one another. It's just like, oh, I'm sorry that was such a terrible day. Like, I'm here, do you want to talk about it? Or, sometimes it's so simple. And I've had couples look at each other and just tell each other a couple of sentences and they're like, I didn't know that. Yeah. And it's just taking, like, sometimes it's 30 seconds. Yes. 30 seconds worth of communication can stop you for like 3 hours of arguments. And I'm not being dramatic there. Like, that is real for a lot of couples.
Yes, 100%. And then, potentially your kids are seeing that. Your kids are seeing you communicate in that way. They're learning how to be in a relationship in a really healthy way as well. So it's so powerful.
So powerful. And I have seen couples change the way that they're communicating, the way that they're spending time together, and literally come back and say to me, our kids are just speaking to each other so nicely.
Yeah.
They've been playing in their room. They haven't been arguing. Like, and they're just looking at me like, this never happens. This never happens. And
yes,
the only thing that changed, and don't get me wrong, it's a big thing, but is how they related to one another, how they communicated to one another. They literally picked that up, the kids, and just took it.
yes.
There was no
100.
conversation happened
Yeah.
with them. It's amazing.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's incredible.
Yeah, because the kids were, I mean, just modeling is the very best way that kids can learn. So, I mean, it just makes sense that to put the time in and the effort into value relationship, it's going to serve everybody so well in your family. So, yeah, it
100%.
seems a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
So, what do you, I mean, you've talked a little bit about it, but what is the really big impact on the whole family unit when the parents' relationship is healthy and nurtured? Like what else happens? You've talked about the kids
Yes.
sort of change, and yeah, what else happens?
Well, what actually happens for the kids as well is when they come into the age that they're, boyfriend, girlfriends, or they're getting married and all of those things, they relate differently to the other person. They understand what a healthy, happy, functioning relationship looks like. And if I think that there's one motivating factor for a parent, it's that your kids will do what you do.
Totally.
Most of the time. Like, obviously it's not 100%, but most of the time. And so if nothing else, I think your primary motivating factor should be that if you want your children to have that healthy, loving, happy relationship, is to start with you right now. And just do your best. Of course, there's no there's no perfect situation. We're all humans, but it's just even seeing that mum and dad can make up and they can repair repair after a little tiff or whatever, seeing that, they do hug after that, or that everything, has been resolved and that they do sit down and talk about it. It's not about perfection, but it is about seeing that that's a healthy habit to actually talk about it afterwards, to actually go, hey, I'm sorry for my part in this. And that's something that's often overlooked, is that you can say, I'm sorry for my part of this, and your part of it could be 3%. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because you could just have a tone in your voice when you go, yeah, whatever, and your part might not be huge, but it's still a part, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so modeling those, we call them examples of repair, and modeling them is huge, because you'll see them then do that with one another, siblings. You'll see, two sisters or a brother and sister just go, yeah, like, I actually am sorry. And so instead of having to, headbutt them all the time, this is what you do it. That's how you do it to your sister. It's like, no, we'll just start with you and your partner and what's going on there first.
Yeah. It's just 100 times more effective than say sorry. They'll do what you do rather than what you say.
They'll always do what you do, which is always the hard part, right, as a parent. But they'll always do what you do. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Laura, in your experience, you've worked with so many people. Is it ever too late to turn things around? Given as long as both members of the couple are willing.
Yes. And that is definitely the caveat. Both people, need to want it and be willing to put in the work. And if they are both willing and wanting to put in the work, then no. I have seen, married couples who are no longer living together. There's, been lying and infidelity and a whole range of different things. And this is just in one couple. And they have gone through it. They've done the counseling. They've worked, with me, and they've been back celebrating, I think it was their 25th wedding anniversary. Oh, wow. And they've got 2 beautiful children, and they've just seen the change within themselves, pursuing things that they really sort of put on the back burner as well. Like, there's been multiple changes in multiple areas, and it's just never too late. And sometimes these things can be the catalyst for creating a better foundation for your relationship. And I always say that that's usually when they come to me, there's that kind of fork in the road. It's like, well, do we end this, or can we actually get back to, or build a better place? And I always say that's the decision. You have that decision, and it's up to you. You can build back stronger and better and create a more loving relationship if you so choose. Yes.
So it's absolutely possible for anybody that has made that decision.
For sure. 100%.
Yeah. Fantastic. That's so hopeful.
Yes.
So what is one small step that people could take today if they're listening to this and they're thinking, gosh, that's us. We've just got so many things in the calendar. There's no time we have together. We don't talk. We don't know how to talk. Like, what is one little thing that they could do today to start investing more in their relationship with their partner?
Yes. So I think just looking at the calendar and just thinking, okay, where can we find some time for us? And even if it's 20 minutes, even if it's half an hour, do that. But then I just go a little step further and just see where there's those micro moments. And what I mean is you could be at work, but you could send a loving connection message to one another and it would take 20 to 30 seconds. Or you could send a message to update on what's going on. And now, like, that's not romantic, but it's necessary, right?
Yes.
To keep clear communications, clear understanding between you both. Those small micro connection points are actually worth a lot because it also builds anticipation to see each other at the end of the day.
Oh, I love that. Like a little preemptor.
Yeah. And so sometimes we forget that, like, that's the stuff you do at the start when you were dating.
Yes.
And then we just like, it's like, oh, well, we're married, we've got kids, we've got work, who cares, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And no, like if you want to foster your relationship and you want to have a loving relationship, that's the kind of habits that you need to have and continue and make it fun. Like this isn't meant to be all like, super serious. Like you're meant to be able to have fun with one another. So start seeing where you can get those micro connection points in throughout the day or throughout the week and just make it happen. Like kind of make a little commitment to those extra 30 seconds, because that's really all it is.
Yeah.
To make those things happen. And I would really be interested, because I know for a fact, because I've seen it happen, the change that it actually makes. And it's not a big investment of time.
I love that. Like so you could do it as a little experiment. Like I'm just going to send, 3 texts this week and just see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I often set different, they're always different, but different little challenges sometimes for couples, like just see where you could, and sometimes it's where could you genuinely tell your partner how much you love and appreciate them, but make it so specific to them and send it in a text. Or if you don't have the time to do it face to face, or write it on a post-it note and chuck it in their bag before they leave to work, or whatever. Like just
love that.
You can get those things in, and they just don't take the time. But I bet you anything, if you ask your partner afterwards how that made them feel, it would be worth way more than the 30 seconds it took to write it.
Oh, huge. All right. Well, you've convinced me, Laura.
Okay, good.
We absolutely need to put our relationship with our partner first, because this is just going to filter down for everybody.
Absolutely.
Is there anything at all you'd like to add to everything you've shared to us with today? It's been such a value.
The only thing is, I think, is don't wait. I see so many couples waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's like, I'll wait till it gets bad enough kind of thing. Like, oh, it's so bad, well, I guess we have to do counseling, or it's like the last resort, so we'll do counseling. It is tenfold easier if you don't wait till you get to that place. It's, it's a much shorter time frame for counseling. You get back on the same page a lot quicker, you move forward a lot quicker, and it's a sign of strength to get support. And whether that's individual support because you've got something individually going on for you at the moment, or whether that's as a couple, it's such a sign of strength to do that for yourself and to have that support. And I just feel like that's such an important message for everyone to hear. So that's what I'll leave you with.
Thanks so much, Laura. So how can people find out more about you? You're in Australia, so but I imagine you work online with people all over. So
yeah, so I work online with everyone all throughout Australia. And my whole business is on Zoom. So you can, all of the sessions are via Zoom. You can go to Laura Press Counselling, 2ls.com.au. And there's a whole lot of free resources there, a whole lot of things that you can have a look at that will help you move your relationship forward. And, you can find me on Instagram at Laura Press Counselling as well. But they're the main 2 places. But I really, go have a look. There's a lot of free articles and free resources as well that you can go and start implementing straight away to help your relationship move forward.
Oh, fantastic. So we'll put all those links in the notes underneath this recording. So thank you so much for being here, Laura.
No worries. It was lovely chatting to you. Thank you.